the government? Like,
That's part of the government.
what about NASA?
Also part of the
Part of
government.
the government.
NASA is lying. The Earth is flat. Flat Earth.
You're not a flat earther. No one in this house, except Bill, is allowed to be a flat earther.
This is UnpauseIt, a podcast by a family of geeks.
I'm Lady Disdain, and I'm 43 years old.
I am the sauce underscore, and I am 11 and a half.
Underscore the data bytes. 41.
I'm Furious Girl, and I am 9.
We are kicking off our next episode of this podcast, and we have just watched Thor: The Dark World, which is Thor 2.
One of my least favorite.
Well, that ratings are to the end. Ratings are to the end.
I mean, hey, if you want to let people know right off the bat what you think, that's cool too.
Totally.
You're not a fan.
You're entitled to your opinion, for sure. The end.
I just want to postscript that he may not be a fan. He sure laughed a lot through the whole movie, as did we all.
Was engaged.
And also a giant ice rat flying.
Yeah, that was fun. He kind of frolicked through that square in London at the end. It was a little frolicking by that animal, but yes. All right. Well, as we begin Thor: Dark World, this is continuing our Avengers series of reviews, and we are moving our way up. What are we moving and counting down to? What movie?
May 4th, 2018.
It has a big blue-purple
Avengers.
banner.
Hello!
gosh.
You failed.
No, we are counting down to have the entire MCU reviewed and podcasted from our family before Avengers.
Infinity War.
Right.
Yes.
Dun dun dun.
Wait,
So,
Giorgio, what's your screensaver on your laptop?
Han Solo.
who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Han Solo.
Who's the pilot of the Millennium Falcon?
Han Solo.
Who shot Greedo first?
Han Solo.
Greedo. Who shot first?
Han Solo.
Greedo shot.
Take that, George Lucas. Can't change
Wait, no.
it fast.
Palpatine shot first.
No.
Anyway.
Pure logic.
So,
Let's circle back to what we're actually talking about, which is Avengers stuff. So, Thor: Dark World. We're going to move on down through this movie. And first of all, the Databytes is going to give us some information about the general cast and such. Databytes.
So this is Thor: Dark World, Thor 2, released in 2013 in November. So it is a fall release, which coincides when Thor Ragnarok was released. It's also November.
Ah, okay, cool.
So it was kind of, I didn't really correlate that, but yeah, that kind of works. But this one came out in 2013 in November. This was after Iron Man 3, which was very good, well received. Made a buttload of money. This is...
How many buttloads of money did it make? Well, I guess we're going to talk about that.
This at the end. The Chris Hemsworth returns as Thor. Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, with a bigger role in this one.
Yes.
Even though she had a fairly significant role in the first one, this one I think was better. I have a couple of problems with how dopey she gets in Asgard.
But that's fish out of water stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of how dopey that Thor got on Earth. So
Yeah, and I get it, but she's also incredibly intelligent, but was a little
She definitely had more to do in this movie.
socially inept, I think would be the word on that one. Anthony Hopkins is Odin. Tom Hiddleston is Loki again. Idris Elba has a little bit better role in this one. Small, but important. You know, we got Kat Dennings, Stellan Skarsgård. A lot of good actors in this one.
We had someone switch out on this movie who is not the original actor from first Thor.
Right, so it's not the first recasting in the MCU, but a minor character, which upsets some fanboys. But I really didn't care. He did a good job. It was a good character. I didn't tell the difference. He looks slightly different.
He had less of a coif, if you will. I mean, I think in the first movie, I'm like, wow, that looks like a wig.
His laugh was a little bit better in the first movie. Like the first actor was
Still ladies' man.
Yeah. But, no big deal. I think some of the best parts are Stellan Skarsgård's character, who returns as Dr. Selvig.
Mm-hmm.
So he's integral in Thor, in the Avengers, and now in this. So we're tying everything together. But that is as far as the movie specs. It's directed by...
Get your magic in order.
I know, Alan Taylor. Directed a lot of television.
Okay.
Several Game of Thrones episodes, things like that.
Oh, we got some GOT fans probably listening to this. So
never seen it. too much sex and dying for my tastes.
I donated blood this last week, and they were talking about people who are, I'm scared of donating blood. I'm like, do you watch Game of Thrones? Then stop. Because there's so much blood and gore in Game of Thrones. Give me a break. Let me go do around the table a little bit. Furious Girl, was there a particular character that you favor in this movie? In Thor Dark World?
Loki, when he turned into Captain America.
We'll talk about that with favorite scenes too.
Totally.
Willis, how about you? Or the sauce? Who was your favorite character that jumped out to you?
I don't know.
You don't got a favorite? That's fine. Now, one of the topics we often talk about, which gets a little tougher when we are hitting the sequels to different movies. So
sequels. Speaking of sequels,
that's okay. Just go ahead and interrupt me. That's fine.
I will. This is to wake the sauce up because we were watching the first disc of the second DVD set of Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. We have interrupted that sequel to watch this sequel. So we want to make sure that we're in sequel. So we have a sequel within a sequel here.
Okay, this actually, I can tie this back into our conversation. Some of the evil characters in this movie are the Dark Elves, and I think they had to try hard to make this not seem like Lord of the Rings elves. So elves, I think so, because I think before these movies, if you thought of elves, you're like, oh, like Lord of the Rings, Elrond and all those people, and Galadriel and all these things. I thought this movie did a decent job keeping these elves different than those elves.
What do you think, Sauce?
I don't know.
Okay. Are you sure? So you actually saw Malekith as, say, Legolas, just same? just the same?
Yeah.
They do make...
No. The curse looks exactly like Legolas.
How about you?
Well, it didn't really confuse me because they had things around their ears, most of the elves.
They look different, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Different.
Pop quiz. There was a Lord of the Rings reference made in the Avengers. Do you remember?
I don't remember.
It was Iron Man grabbing Hawkeye. Pucker up, Legolas, he says.
No, he said clench up, Legolas, not pucker up. What kind of podcast is this?
What?
A weird one. It's snowing.
Apparently a disgraced one did.
Right. It is snowing. It is 14 degrees. At least the neighbor's sidewalk has been power... Exactly. And it's snowing again.
It's so loud.
It's coming out.
Nothing stops a podcast like a snowblower.
Or a lawnmower.
Or a lawnmower.
Right.
or a giggle fest with flaring nostrils.
Oh, man, those nostrils.
That just brought it all to a screeching halt right there.
Or burp.
Seriously.
Or a burp spray. I can do like on cue.
Yeah. You guys, I swear, one of these days, I'm going to make a gag reel and post it in our Facebook group, which we have a Facebook group for UnpauseIt, but where it's just Willis Belch's. Like, here are the variety, the montage of belches. So, as I was saying, though, we tend to, it's a little tougher to cover superpowers. That's on our list of notes, and it's a little tougher sometimes to cover that. Although, you can still do it with some of these movies, especially the sequels or the third movies, where sometimes our superheroes tend to get into new areas, new powers they experience. Right. Just a tiny, not a real spoiler alert, but just a little heads up. When we get to Thor Ragnarok, for instance, we're going to see a new superpower by Thor.
No.
Yes.
It's not a new superpower.
Well, are we talking about Ragnarok?
Yes.
A realization.
No,
I'm alluding to it.
That's not a new superpower. That's a realization.
Anyway, but that's for the next one. We'll get there before May 4th.
We talk a little bit. So I did write down a superpower, but I want to kind of hear what you guys think. Did anyone else write down anything for superpowers for this movie?
No.
I just wrote down Thor, but I wanted to make a note that this movie really made it clear that he was the most powerful Asgardian, perhaps other than Odin.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, too, you see some scenes in here where he's butting heads with Odin, and you do feel that he's kind of arrived to his time, whereas Odin possibly is ready to segue out.
What do you kids think about that? Segue. So we thought about the one scene that I'm talking about, and this is not favorite scenes, but this is talking about superpowers. After the Dark Elves invade Asgard, right? And Odin comes back to his throne room, and there's the Dark Elves there. He just points his staff at him, and they're gone. Like, he didn't even have to do anything, and they're dead. So, what do you guys think about that?
Well, there was one. This one.
His staff is certainly powerful.
Right. But he has the ability to wield that staff. Not everybody can wield that staff.
That's right. But also,
I could not.
not everybody could wield.
Right.
I'm not tall enough.
Meow meow. Meow. I wrote down. I'm going to segue from what I'm about to say, and we'll get right into villains. Okay.
Villain.
So I wrote down a superpower because we have a bit of a. We're not sure if it's a villain, but he seems to be he's helping the good side anyway. Loki's power of illusion plays a huge role throughout this movie.
Throughout all of his movies so far.
Well,
too.
I feel like it's heavier in this movie. You see a ton of it, and a lot of it used for what we think our heroes' goals are, and then it gets questionable. But I say that's a superpower. I think that Loki used his illusion. But then let's get into the villains. Loki technically is a villain, is he not?
Speaking of Loki and his mother, Frigga, we find out in this movie, Willis, Georgia.
Yeah. What?
That's where he learned his power to do illusions was from Frigga.
Right?
Yeah, but once Loki learned how, he was much more powerful in illusions than Frigga.
Or
we
he
don't
used
know.
it more irresponsibly.
Yeah. We don't know. I would be curious to see how often she wound up using her power. I mean, she's obviously the queen and she knows how to handle Odin, but we see her use it in one instance. I'm like, girlfriend, she probably was. And she used it, actually we see her using it twice. She visits Loki in his cell, and she uses it to protect Jane Foster.
That one, totally. But yeah, we see the villains. We're talking about what's the other main villain? Who's the other main villain?
Dark elves.
Yes, but do you remember the name of the main dark elf?
No.
Malekith.
And the ether.
And the ether, yes.
The ether is kind of neutral.
It's a foil, but it is not good.
Yeah, it's dead.
Yeah, right.
Oh, please.
So, but yeah, we have Malekith. Now, I have heard many podcasts,
Geez, could it be Collision?
Yes, and others. IGN, Jim Vavida on IGN. We have a MCU villain problem. Why can't everything be as good as Kilgrave on Jessica Jones? Because you don't have 10 hours to develop a villain. That's why.
Yes, you do.
So we have this one here. Why is Malekith trying to destroy life, the universe, and everything?
So I think it's two things. So one is Dark Elves were in the Dark Ages, and there was literally the Dark Ages.
Literally in the universe before the signs and stars and the Celestials even happened, the elves were around. That's kind of what it's telling us.
Yeah.
Right?
And the Infinity Stones were around even before then.
Right.
Say that. His other thing, I think he got a little power hungry, just a little bit.
He was a little insane.
Usually all the bad guys are at least a little bit power hungry.
A little bit. How about you?
Darkness. Yeah.
Darkness.
So the world that exists now, matter, not antimatter, light, not dark, being
Death.
What everyone wants. Not death. We're not really talking about death, but he just tore at who he was molecularly even. So it was more, I would say, banal than it was actually evil.
Yeah, I mean, but you always get some men just want to watch the world burn. He just, it's like he wanted to end it all because he's like...
He definitely wanted to end it all. Totally wanted to end it all. But some of the criticisms are this enemy is not up to being the enemy of our hero. He was way stronger than Thor when he had the ether.
Particularly with the ether, yeah.
The ether is sorry for interrupting, but the ether is an Infinity Stone. Imagine all the Infinity Stones together, not in a gauntlet, just all the Infinity Stones touching, just in space colliding, and imagine. I'm wondering. I don't know. Will they converge and create one powerful stone? Will they explode and kill everything? Will they just do nothing and disappear and reappear on the separate parts of the galaxy?
And turn into a bunch of pebbles?
Like a magnet when you put the together, they just try to repel each other?
Or do they just teleport away?
Gotcha.
Is that a ring of power?
No, go.
As the sauce was saying, they would probably come into one stone, and if that stone touches anything, it'll explode. If someone powerful enough to wield it, and I don't even know if Thanos would be powerful enough to wield them all bare hand.
Without the gauntlet, maybe.
Just
Yeah.
like reach out and grab his stuff. If someone was powerless enough, they would be unbeatable. Like not even an army of
Which we're going
times
to
100
find.
Hulks.
Which we're going to get to in
I think we're a
Infinity
little
War,
off
for sure.
topic too, but
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
We did a whole mini pod on Infinity Stones.
Right.
Let's leave that behind.
but
Villains.
this is the reality stone.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta
But
say.
also, let's talk about Malekith had his sidekick, the guy he kind of imbued with this like almost Hulkish superpowers. That guy was tough. I
The
don't remember his
Cursed.
name. The Cursed. That's his name?
That's what he becomes. So whatever his name was in before this cursing stone is activated, some sort of technology.
And that is
they
not to be mistaken with an Infinity Stone. It was just
No.
Dad,
Yes.
I'm interrupting you, but it might not be technology. It might just be like a
He thought magic.
Really,
He thought
like a-
magic.
Well, okay.
or
So,
just a like
but listen,
a really
remember,
rare rock.
we're going back to the original Thor. I come a place from where magic and science are one and the same. Okay, so we're gonna call this a technology, a magic. You can call it a magic if you want, but his name was Algrim and Curse, like the cursed, very strong, imbued with superpower, just extreme immortality almost, but it was going to consume him and he was going to die regardless. How long it was going to take is kind of unclear.
Right.
To get into how the cursed is defeated, I wondered in the theater out loud, could the Hulk have taken the curse in a one-on-one fight?
Yes, I think he could. Because
I think so too.
could take Thanos, I bet.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know yet.
I bet him.
Hopefully we find out. Now, do you think that, I'm not going to go too spoiler, the weapon that kills the cursed could have killed or would kill?
Curious Girl, do you want to describe what that weapon is? That little grenade kind of thing they do where it like sucks things into a... Maybe I just explained it.
Implosion grenade. I think you just explained it.
Yeah.
The implosion grenade?
So
Loki almost gets sucked into one.
What kills the lead elf is his own ship.
No, not the lead elf, but the cursed. Remember the...
Well, no, she's talking about Malekith. His ship
Malekith,
falls on
right.
his face.
Right. Right on the face.
So, all right, any other villains? We've talked about Loki. We've talked about the Curse. We've talked about Malekith. Sauce.
I would like to comment that the implosion grenade probably could do some damage to Hulk, but you can't really kill a Hulk, can you?
We tried. He's tried.
You can try.
Nobody's been
what
successful.
would happen if you?
I'm pretty sure we're going to find out.
Yeah, what would happen if he could kill Hulk? Would he just lay there, turn back into Banner, then that Banner would die, and a new Hulk would
But
come
if
out?
his entire molecular structure was sucked into oblivion, would he just be ceasing to exist?
I don't know.
No, because when Banner tried to kill himself because of Hulk, he shot a bullet into his mouth, but Hulk spit it out.
That's right.
So he can't commit suicide.
But an implosion grenade is not a bullet.
Exactly.
I know.
But it won't work.
I think we'll find out.
We don't know.
So we have Malekith. I think he's a pretty good villain, actually. Maybe a little unexplored.
I think so too. I think I would say if there was a fault in this movie about the villains, I feel like they had to spend so much time on Jane Foster and on Loki and Thor, and they spent a lot of time on that. You didn't get a ton of exploration into Malekith. I mean,
Right.
you did get. I did find. I mean, I wrote that down. This opened the same way Thor did, with Odin narrating and giving you kind of a history lesson, and then it segues into the actual action. Because with first Thor,
A
we
lot
got
like
that.
Lord of the Rings and the very first Fellowship of the Ring, and things were forgotten.
Yes. Enough of Lord of the Rings. All right. So we talked about villains. Let's discuss.
Did we talk about Loki fully, though? I don't know if we did.
We haven't yet, but I don't want to yet. I'm driving, and I will decide what we're doing. So
Oh, get rested.
let's talk about the people who are on the good side. We have superheroes. So obviously we have Thor. Thor's got some vulnerabilities in this movie. What are his vulnerabilities? Anybody got a clue? Furious Girl. What's What's distracting Thor?
Jane Foster.
That's right. So you do get a very different Thor than we started off with in the first movie of Thor, where first movie he was like, I want to go to war, I'm going to fight, I'm really upset. And then I want to go like eat a lot and drink a lot and do things. And then in this movie, he's like not celebrating. He's fighting seriously. He's taking his job seriously. But even, did you guys catch that where his dad's like, dude, listen up. Right? He's like, why don't you go like have some fun and remember that you can do this. And
Right.
he's like, I don't feel like it. I'm not feeling it. I know. So it's just an interesting flip flop. You see, he's in a different mental place. Willis, are you in a different mental place?
Yes.
What about Odin? Did Odin have any weaknesses or vulnerabilities in this movie?
Yes.
Talk to me.
Love for his relatives.
Right.
Well, his wife.
Frigga
yes.
dying was huge.
And also Loki and Thor. Mm-hmm. He did love Loki.
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure he did? Because he was very... Ragnarok kind of shows us that maybe he really didn't. Maybe he was just using Loki.
Oh, well, I think not. I think Odin is a wise king and tried to turn Loki to the good side.
Georgia, fierce girl.
I think Odin didn't actually love Loki, but he had him as a son just to see if he was worth having.
He was much harsher on him this time around. So you guys brought something up interesting about, Will said, well, Odin is kind of good king. I feel like part of this movie does line up what you learn about Odin in Ragnarok, because
he's flawed.
One line that Loki tells him, he's like, I just wanted to be a benevolent god, just like you. And he's so sarcastic with it. We're like, what do you know? What do you know about Odin, and what do you figure about him? And again, Loki, you guys, look at Loki. He has a whole tainted view of all, like, you dropped me into space. He's like, no, guy, they tried to save you. It's fine. What do you got, Willis?
I think that Loki kind of something deceived him into thinking, you dropped me into that giant toilet space hole.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit rejected.
Yeah, and I think that Loki learned some of history that we find out in Thor Ragnarok about Odin. Just some, maybe.
Okay.
That's why like, what do you know about Odin?
I do. I do think also one of the weaknesses I said about Odin is that he becomes, and even they say it in the movie, he's blinded. He's blinded by his grief and his rage. And he's like, no, we're just going to fight when they show back up. Whereas Thor is, I believe Thor's having a bit more of a kingly perspective, saying we have to get the danger away from the people at large, and let's go. There's a different way to approach this, and Odin's not hearing it, so he has to engage the help of another primary character fighting for good in this, which is Heimdall.
Right. However, to back up one half a step,
yes,
it's alluded to that Odin knows about the Infinity Stones. The mid-credit scene shows that they did know about Infinity Stones, that the Ether became an Infinity Stone in the mid-credit scene.
Well, he tells Jane Foster about the stones. He knows about the stones. Right.
Doesn't really show that Thor is really learned in that lore and what they are and really tied into that. If he was going to be more forthright and say, hey, this might be an Infinity Stone, we need to keep this under guard because this could destroy everything. Maybe then Thor would have changed his tack.
To not threaten, like, oh, well, let's go, just give it back and I'll destroy it. Had he known it was an Infinity Stone, he'd be like, oh, no, I can't.
Right. And Odin would be like, yeah, how are you going to destroy an Infinity Stone, something that is not destroyable? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure he knew that the Ether was an Infinity Stone until after Malekith had died and they recovered it and then maybe studied it and did some tests or research on it. So I think in the story of this movie, it fits, but had Odin been more forthcoming and not so secretive.
You guys thinking forward, we'll talk about this in Age of Ultron. Thor does have a bit of an awakening. He gets in that one pool, which we'll talk about at that movie. But in this movie, in Thor the Dark World, he talks about how, well, Mother told us these stories as children. To him right now, they're kind of a fairy tale, but they become far more real later on. What were you going to say? Any other kind of major superheroes? We don't need to necessarily talk about Sif and the Warriors 3, other than the fact Sif's a little bit rejected in this movie.
Sif has a thing for Thor, and she would be the most logical successor to Frigga being the queen of Asgard, seeing as Frigga was way tough.
Frigga was a warrior queen, yeah.
Right, and so Sif fits that. Jane Foster doesn't.
Nope.
She's rejected, but she's resolved to, accepting of it, if you will. Other than that, the Warriors 3 had good parts. Mm-hmm. Certainly were very small parts again. We don't need to have a whole movie with the Warriors 3 on them. Yeah. We have good actors playing them, playing strong roles, very strong written. We don't need to have these giant characters for everything. There's not enough time in the world to do that.
Okay. Let's move on. Favorite scenes. Furious Girl, you go first, then it'll be the sauce.
When Loki turns into Captain America.
Those were so
And
great.
it's talking about liberty and peace.
That was so
war.
great. I mean, because it was so. And Chris Evans did it. He's the guy who plays Captain America. He does a good job with doing that. So again, go ahead. She's moving on.
And then when this is my favorite line.
Cat?
Darcy?
Yes.
Darcy.
Okay.
Meow meow.
She says meow meow again. So going back to the Captain America cameo, Chris Evans is quoted as saying, "I spent 2 years trying to make him not campy and silly." Like, he was so upset by it that
get
it
over
had
it.
to be over the top. He's like, I was trying to not do
But
this.
it was, I mean, honestly,
so
it's
funny.
one of the favorite moments. I love that whole line where Loki changes. And again, talking about the illusions where he just then he turns Thor into Sif. And Sif's Thor's like, this won't make me killing you any less painful.
Right, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was
Good scene. Good scene.
How about you? What's your favorite? What are your favorite scenes?
Okay, I better get my pants from Eric Selvig. They're about to go on the quest, and they're like, no, and dramatic music is playing, no, and then Eric's like, better go get my pants.
That was so. He had such great lines and great moments in this.
Okay, and the second one.
Okay.
But remember when they're falling through space and time and matter and
Yeah.
science, and they land on the glass thing, and they're just like, they're like falling like that.
Right?
That is really
all
good.
the people in the outfit are like, whoa.
And right then, if Malachar looked
Malekith.
Malachar
In the car.
looked anything more like an Asgardian, not an elf. Like a small, stupid, fat elf. Then it would look like, oh, those guys are bros. But then they start fighting, and you're like, oh, those guys are not bros.
Oh, those guys are pros. All right. How about you, the Dad Abides? Favorite scenes?
I do like the get in your pants line. That was pretty good. I do like Thor putting his hammer on the coat rack. And I said, the coat rack is worthy.
That was very funny.
A couple of favorite scenes. I do like the beginning where the cement truck is spinning, and the effects on that were really well done.
That was really good. Agreed.
I did have a lot of favorite imagery from this one. I do really like Frigga in the cell with Loki, and you realize that, oh, she's doing the same thing that he did to everyone else, but she's there.
Yep.
And then when she stands up to Malekith, those are the ones that stand out to me.
So good.
And then right after she stands up to Malekith, and Thor comes in, and they're like, oh, and they had to get out because it was going down.
Yeah. What about you? You're going to add more?
So I was going to say, a human can lift a cement truck, a really large, actually, cement truck, probably with some cement still in it or something. And a child could do that with 2 fingers. Imagine what Hulk could do. Like,
Well, yeah, it was doing that because it was in a weird
what
space.
could he lift?
Lots.
The Empire State Building?
Well, maybe.
All right. I've got a few favorite scenes as well. I love... I'll just say I really do like Loki. I think he adds
Right.
so much to this universe. And you just don't ever know which way he's going, which I do like. I like the guessing game of it where you're not sure what team he's on. He's always on Loki's team, that's for sure. I thought the Viking funeral was beautiful. I loved,
Yeah.
and I'm getting a big thumbs up from you. You were just a big mouthful of water right there. Like, yeah. I loved it. It was beautiful just seeing Frigga's, the boat carrying her out, and they light the torch. And then you just see the rest of the boats of all the other warriors that had died. And the way he moves Frigga's out and turns her into the stars. And it was beautiful. The music was beautiful. It was moving. You're just like, dang, this was heavy. So I really like that. I love the whole, it's kind of a montage, but a really well edited job of them planning the escape out of Asgard.
Right. The way it was edited to where they were planning it, and then you would see it happening, but then they go back to planning it, and then the next thing would happen, they go back to planning. That was a really good job.
It was really well. Yes.
So something I forgot to say, I actually have some things I have to say. Other things, but the thing that was on my mind when I rose my hand is this thing. When when Eric said there hasn't been a convergence for thousands of years, I wonder whether that was a convergence where Malekith's first tried to do it, or it was a second convergence.
Like how many convergences has happened since that actually was?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, maybe
We don't know.
maybe
Yeah.
none, maybe 200.
Right.
How old is Boar? Right.
All right, Stan Lee cameo. I heard someone during the Stan Lee cameo say right out loud what she thought of it, and that would be you. What did you think of Stan Lee's cameo in this one?
10.
10 out of 10.
I put a smiley face.
It was a very
Can
well
I have
done.
my shoe back? It's the second best Stanley cameo I've ever seen.
I like it when they're short and you see him, you actually know it's coming. Like you see him and you're like, Stan Lee! And then then the next little cut, then he says something. So you're like, okay, it was short. He wasn't anyone famous. He was just in the room. And you're like, ha 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 ha. And
He's
you
in
move on.
prison.
Yep, he's in a mental asylum. All right, major battles.
Everything. It's quite
No,
a
not
bit.
the whole movie. It's not the whole movie. Don't
No.
even say that. What do you got?
Elves at the very beginning.
Versus Boar. Right.
Yeah, that was a major one.
The one where the queen dies.
Yeah. Oh, and that's pretty much them, the invasion into Asgard. That's a big one. All the way.
And then the rest of the movie.
How about you, Sauce? Did you have anything written down?
I had Asgard and London written down.
That's astute.
That's what I remember.
their heat is trying to come on, even though it should because it's cold outside. The heat is on. Hey, you noticed something while we were watching this about the guy who plays Boar, the actor who plays Boar.
Oh, yeah. He's also Marcus from the Underworld movies. I like that actor.
Yeah.
Very small role. And they got a fairly prominent actor to play it. I liked that about these MCU movies. You could get a small role played by a big actor. It just makes everything a little bit more weighty.
Yeah, and for you kids, eventually we'll be able to watch the Underworld movies someday, but
They may not like
that was
them.
a good one.
They might be dated by the time they can watch them.
Right. Let's see. Moving on. So I think we've kind of covered major battles, covered villains, Stanley's cameo, favorite scenes. All right. We had a mid-credit scene and an end-credit scene.
Who wants to go first on the mid-credit scene?
Do you remember what it was?
It's a mid.
I'm gonna let the sauce go.
Okay, which one was it? The
Taval. They're bringing
The collector.
the ether.
Oh no, I want to do the next one.
Okay, so Georgia, do you want the one when they bring the ether to Taval?
0.
You didn't like
You did
it.
not like it.
I had a negative 57.
Wow, neither of you. Like
It was horrible.
Can I do the end one now?
No, I want to do.
Excuse me.
He wants to do it, then you can. So go for it. What did you got?
So this is one with Trevor, right?
No, that's the one shot.
Well, I'm doing the one shot right
Well, hold on. We're not doing one shot. I'll let you talk about it in a moment.
That's a different podcast.
Thor's return. The end credit scene is when Thor comes back via Bifrost to Jane Foster
During breakfast.
during breakfast, and there
Not
was
really appealing to kids.
why
Gross.
was it possibly because of the kissing?
Yeah, but it's one of my favorite scenes. I didn't do it because I was going to do it in end credit scenes. But
We'll
there's
talk
a giant ice rat. If you haven't seen Thor 1, if there's a giant
That's
ice
the best
rat.
part of it then.
There's a giant ice
Okay.
rat jumping around chasing pigeons.
I know. In that
Yeah.
case, I was like, I guess it's kind of a good thing Thor came back because he's got to go take care of that shenanigans.
Yeah, because in the industrial part of London or wherever they are in Britain, there's a giant Svartalheim giant ice rat monster,
Nice mouse.
ice mouse, the
Ice rat.
size of what they would call a lorry, just jumping around out there. I'm like, yeah, that's not something the animal control cops probably would be able to deal with.
Pretty much not. There is no code enforcement that can come after them. So
But according to I want to go on to the mid credit scene. Since the kids did not like the mid credit scene,
okay,
but that leads directly into Guardians of the Galaxy.
it does.
Which took the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in a completely left turn, or right turn, or a U-turn, or
different
upturn, or
turn.
downturn, just a different way. That opened up everything that's allowing Infinity War. It opened up Thor Ragnarok. It gave us the ability to have completely different style of movies really accepted. Even though I think they really did that with Winter Soldier already. And Iron Man 3 being different movies than before. They weren't origin stories.
Yeah.
They weren't, well, it was kind of a Winter Soldier origin story, but that was more in the background. The mid-credit scene, Benicio del Toro is one of my favorite actors. He's so weird.
He is very weird.
You
And
know.
so he played that very well, that he was a weirdo.
So I do like the mid-credit scene, but it is directly tied into the next movies. That's why it's a mid-credit scene. The end credit scene is like, oh, well, if you see Age of Ultron and there's Thor, you just kind of assume he came back first. They like contacted him somehow, or like we're like Heimdall out in the front lawn, and like Heimdall's like, I can see you, and then they just send down Thor. You don't really need to have seen that end credit scene to know that he was back while Jane Foster was eating Shreddies.
That's right. Which is apparently a British cereal.
Right.
All right. So we talked about the end credit scenes. Yes.
Can we do the one shot thing?
Let's talk about one shot. So, you guys, anyone who's watching this or listening to this podcast, Marvel does provide a series of one shot clips. They're available on the Blu-rays as extra features. We did talk on a prior podcast about the one where Coulson, he's on the way to New Mexico.
And Peggy Carter.
And Peggy Carter is in one. That was a really good one, too. This one is about your guys' favorite actor from Iron Man 3. Played by Ben Kingsley.
Can I explain it?
Go for it. Give us a rundown. 30 seconds.
Quick.
Okay, so basically, he's in a prison. He's really famous, and like he has a whole fan club. And then he gets interrogated, basically, and someone tries to kill him. And apparently, there's a real Mandarin with real 10 rings. And then Trevor's like, "They taught me how to use a gun." And then he's like, "Bloody hell, I don't know how to use a gun." You have to see it because I didn't explain it too well, but I think that's the
No, you did a really good job. He's quintessential Trevor. Trevor, I'm an actor.
Can I have my explanation of it?
Go for it.
So, he's in a prison. Everyone's shouting Trevor as he's going to a cafeteria or something. And people are asking him to do the voice. And there's Hammer Person. And then interrogations happen. And then he busts out of jail. Done.
So one thing interesting about this is if you guys recall in Iron Man 3, Mandarin is supposed to be part of the 10 rings.
The leader of the 10 Rings.
Yeah.
And in the comics is a very stereotypical racist Asian Fu Manchu type thing. It was developed in the 60s when it wasn't quite so sensitive to people. They would do that because, this is now obviously Asian, not
there
obviously
wasn't
racist.
as much,
it was a little bit different dichotomy.
There was less guidance as far as like if they should do that or not.
So they couldn't really do that in today's age.
No, they shouldn't.
They would get protested, and probably rightfully so. Unless the guy, that's how he just happened to look. So they did it this way, and a lot of people were upset about it. Obviously, those people were not children watching the movies, enjoying it, and paying it because it made lots and lots of money. Mm-hmm. So this explains that there really is a Mandarin, there really is a 10 Rings, and that Killian, Aldrich Killian, was using that. Something that he probably researched and found out was using that to just spread more terror around to control it, not really realizing that he was putting himself in real danger.
Never trust people with last names as first names.
Okay, two things. Both involve things from Iron Man the First. One is some of the terrorists that you see on TV when the Mandarin, the green screens and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's actually that dude.
Right.
Like the
Iron Man guy dude from the first movie.
What's the guy who made the big robot?
Justin Hammer?
No.
Obadiah.
Yes, Obadiah.
Yeah,
the guy that
Stain. Obadiah.
So, yeah. And also, another thing from Iron Man 1, if you saw in the background, it's one of the beginning things you saw when Tony was being
when he was being interrogated and then...
Did you see the big red ring thing? There was a 10 ring symbol on a big red banner behind him.
Yes.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's really, so that does kind of bring it together. Again, it's just a one shot. It's nothing you would have seen in theater. You can see it on the extra features for your copy.
And the one shot we haven't really watched is Item 47, and that's on the Avengers Blu-ray that we missed. This is the last one shot. They stopped doing them after this. I don't know why. Maybe production costs.
They were really good. I like how they add. Well, and by the way, if you watch this one shot, Justin Hammer appears in it at the very end. Little blip.
And that makes me think that they, for the next movie, which is Winter Soldier, it was a huge change for the MCU. It affected a TV show. It affected Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Everything had to change after that. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if they couldn't do a one-shot for that properly and they couldn't get actors. I'm just wondering if, like, okay, we're just going to scrap it because the scheduling is big. We needed to release it, and they just couldn't get filmed in time. And then after they did that, they just said, nah, we don't need any more.
And we should ask Marvel, please do more one-shots.
I agree.
I do. I like them. They add. I feel like they add a lot. They add more context. It's fun context for people like us who geek out about it. I want you to think about your rating. I know what the unit of measure is, but I'm not going to say it yet. Can you please recap for us the box office? How this movie did? How many buttloads of money did this movie make?
Well, let me.
It may not have actually made full buttloads of money.
It made enough money to make a third one.
There you go.
It made enough money to pay off all their creditors and probably make a healthy profit for all the investors. Opening weekend, it was $85.7 million.
All right.
$206 million for domestic United States box office. And around November time, this is before Star Wars came out in December. That was a big risk. Nobody really goes to movies in the wintertime for these big blockbusters until Star Wars made $2 billion worldwide. So it was kind of a weird thing, but it made $644 million worldwide.
That's pretty good. That's
budget of probably about $200 million, $300 million, so it made money.
It did.
It made millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. $85 million worldwide, though. I mean, for the $85 million for the opening weekend is not huge, not small. Don't really getting into drop off and things like that, but it means that a fair amount of people saw it, but then it only made another $120 million after that in its run. People didn't go back to see it again.
Yeah,
that's kind of a weird thing. Some other technical specs or not?
Go for it. If you can do about a minute.
In 2013, Pope Francis was elected Pope.
Okay. Oh, you like to give the context.
Barack Obama started his second term as president.
Okay.
Margaret Thatcher, that saucy minx, passed away.
Aww.
Some other things. Edward Snowden dropped the hammer on the NSA in 2013.
Gotcha.
It was a big year. Just kind of perspective on context of what happened in that year. 3 things.
All right. I had like 6 options for what I could pick. I was like,
are there even 6 things in this movie?
Yeah, there's tons.
There's like 15.
So the unit of measure for us to rate this movie, each of us, is death threats to Loki.
Oh, good one.
Because
that's a good one.
As he's moving through the castle, as Thor is using him to help bust things out, every single person he comes across is like, if you betray him, I will kill you. If you betray him, I will kill you. And at the end, he's like, you'll kill me? Evidently, they won't be alive. So death threats to Loki is your unit of measure. Furious Girl, how do you rate this movie?
9.1 out of 10 death threats to Loki. Goodbye.
That is really good.
I will interject.
Yes,
she is very stingy with her numbers.
She is stingy with her numbers.
That's a good rating.
They've been Marvel. You've been doing a better job by way of Furious Girl as we get farther into the universe. So
yes,
I didn't actually give it a number rating, so I
think of one now.
We need a number rating because I need to give an average on our website so people know.
Yes,
so it's like I did meh, so
meh.
Are you
5.2?
Okay,
that works. 5.2 out of 10 is a meh from you. That's fine.
I think it would be less, like 5.
So if you had to...
all the kissing during the end battle scene because there was a lot of kissing.
If you had to...
That's 0.1 half.
If you had to threaten Loki with death, you'd be kind of like, I might kill you. Meh.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. You're like, hey, Loki. Meh, might kill you later.
That's
I
right.
don't care.
Data Bites, what did you rate it?
A flat 8.
8 out of 10
Loki death threats.
Loki death threats. And not to be confused with Loki giving death threats. But
no.
Death threats to
Death
Loki.
threats to Loki.
Yes.
Just a flat 8. Nothing crazy. Not exceptionally good.
Yeah.
But then rewatching it again and with perspective of going through in order and having seen it before, and I mentioned this earlier, it's not Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't suffer sequelitis, if you will. It doesn't bog down in the middle. It doesn't have any weird editing issues. It's a solid movie. Mm-hmm. Malekith, maybe it would have been cool to have maybe a longer explanation of why the Dark Elves wanted the Dark Universe to exist.
But then I guess we could just go read the comics.
Could. To that point, though, that was sacrificed because that was originally in the screenplay, they sacrificed that time to bring Loki back into the movie because Tom Hiddleston was not going to be in the movie.
Oh,
So they did.
That
They
would have
did a good
tanked it,
thing.
I think. All right, and I rate this movie. I give it. I'm going to say 7 out of 10
7.
death threats to Loki.
I liked it better than you.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't think I would like it better than her. I thought she'd
fine.
give it a 9.
I'm rating it, and I also am rating it among all the Thors.
Oh.
It's probably my least favorite of the Thors.
Really?
Yeah. I liked Thor 1 better than this one. I certainly like Ragnarok better than it, but it's still a solid 7 out of 10. It's not meh. It's
Meh.
Oh, definitely Ragnarok.
Let's talk about this. Half-hour screen time for this next week.
Assuming grades go high.
I think they
Oh,
will.
We're assuming that is going to happen.
I'm
We're
just
optimistic.
going to say you're going to grant me from it, so I'm done.
No,
you're
we're
not.
assuming that the work that you've put in will be rewarded with higher grades.
Furious Girl.
Yeah.
What's your half-hour screen time this week?
Balloons Tower Defense Battles 5.
Which is what?
Battles?
A game.
On.
A
PC?
computer.
Okay. Blues Towers Defense Battles 5. I don't even know what that means.
Wait, Georgia, are you sure it's battles or is it just normal? Because I don't think we have battles here.
I
Well,
said 5.
5.
No, you said
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
Speaking Greek over there.
Which, by the way, this is part of the reason I like this movie is because there's so much sibling stuff in it. I really saw our own kids and how Loki and Thor get along, or don't.
Mom wouldn't want us to fight. Well, she wouldn't really be surprised.
I know, it's like,
Is the podcast over?
nope, yeah, you're going to give me your half-hour screen time if you're able to do that.
We're assuming you can.
Well, I say, man, I'm not doing it. Because I don't.
Okay.
I'm assuming it will be like Minecraft or
All right.
something like that.
Probably not.
What is our next movie? We're talking about Captain America, Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier.
Who's driving that one?
I will drive that one
Okay.
because, spoilers, that's my absolute favorite MCU movie.
Yeah.
Told us that in the introduction podcast. but-
Okay,
yeah.
okay, I'm out.
I'm not hiding this.
Yeah.
I think it's the best one. I think it's the best well done one.
I think a lot of people share that opinion,
Sure.
as of right now, that's what's great about this whole thing is as movies come out, Captain America: Winter Soldier is still really tops, but you never know, it could get displaced by another movie.
Probably not Black Panther.
Ragnarok is close.
It doesn't displace it. I'm thinking maybe Infinity War can displace it.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and visit us at UnpauseIt.com.